The Arts of Humanity, the show where creative humanitarians give you the tea on today's hottest issues and their personal experiences. Today's chat is all about the ladies as we spill the tea on women's issues and feminism. Now, let's meet our panelists. Vogue Davis, Kelly Fair, Adia Baker, Sandy Torres, and our only man, Reggie Cotton. All right, so let's start with our first question for today. What are some of the biggest obstacles you face trying to break down your gender barriers? Adia, you can take that one.
So I currently head up the charity committee for the company that I work for. I'm not in nonprofit, but I do a lot of nonprofit work with my company as well as outside of my company. So one of the biggest obstacles that I've faced so far has been just the ability to be taken seriously. Leading a committee is difficult. You've got a lot of different people, different personalities, and as a woman, to be taken seriously as a leader, really, giving direction without someone saying, oh, she's bossy, she's got an attitude, but there's things that have to be done in order to execute a charity.
Kelly, you work specifically with young women. How do you feel? What are your biggest obstacles when trying to break down gender barriers?
Probably the biggest issue is being a founder of an organization, and it's a startup. And so as a young woman, you're going in, whether it's you're looking for funding, whether you're looking for partnerships and opportunities. I hate being viewed, which I know I am when I walk in the door, is here's Kelly, the nonprofit girl. And so it's almost this assumption that I think it's a double thing. It's being in the nonprofit industry and being female and being whatever age they're perceiving me to be. So they think that you are wide open for whatever they're going to throw at your way because you need money, you need opportunities, you need resources. So very early on in my career, and even now, less now, I'm 6 years, almost 7 years in the game. It's like, are you going to really help me, or are you trying to get a play date out of this? You know what I mean? Or do you think that I need to call you 15,000 times? When you approach me, you're dealing with a professional. Right. You're dealing with a diverse professional who is very capable of representing herself in the wild hundreds, on the Gold Coast, in the United States, or on the other side of the globe.
One of my greatest challenges is staying in tune with that innate feeling that I have, and that's to be a giver. As women, we are naturally nurturers, and we love to give, and we want to give and do for everybody. But once you become a person that's a part of leadership, and once you start to head a lot of organizations and committees and these boards, you have, like you said, you have to be respected as a professional. So you have to keep a balance between the two. So you have that heart when you want to give and help everybody that comes to you, but you also have to maintain that balance as a woman, a leader, as an African-American woman for myself. But that's a challenge. It's a great challenge.
Thanks for that, Kelly and Vogue. Reggie, there's now a Congressional Caucus focusing on eliminating barriers and disparities that Black women and girls face. Okay? What are the top issues you'd like them to address?
Well, I think that's a huge issue. So, I mean, that they're addressing that, it needs to be done. Our young girls have the same problems as our young men. So I don't have an issue with sharing, the support and the resources to both our young men and our young women. So I definitely want to continue to see that movement to help young ladies.
Kelly, do you agree that young men and young women have the same problems?
We've been talking about this in Polished Pebbles for the past few years, and everybody I know that's working with girls are like, thank God, finally. We call it Polished Pebbles the other side of the crisis. Black girls are growing up in the same communities, facing the same threats of violence and trauma. So we were just like, yes, yes. So when President Obama mentioned the need for supporting Black girls at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation dinner, we were excited.
Our office that we have our charity organization at, they have a lot of coding and stuff like that, different workshops for women. So we want to make sure that even though it's out there, we need to make sure that we're grabbing it to do these things, take advantage of it. A lot of people won't know which route to go.
And I think all girls should be included too. A lot of times when you think about disparities in general, not even just gender-based, they always think of urban communities, those young girls who have resources, who have both parents, they need certain things as well. So yes, including everyone. Obviously, like you said, everyone needs to be at the table, specifically for those who are in underserved communities, but all young girls, Black girls, need, that attention and those opportunities.
Probably the biggest thing that should come out of this is there is no one single black girl experience.
Right.
But when you look at TV, you look at the stereotypes, we get that one stereotypical image of black girls. And so I don't care if you're in Chicago, there's diversity when you're talking about working with black girls. If we're talking about black girls that live in the rural South, there may be some issues there. So I think it's one thing I like to come out of this is helping America understand who black girls are.
Diversity.
The diversity and the layers of what comes with that experience. I think that if we can get that as one of the primary objectives, then we'd be winning there as
I
well.
think that's what the Black Girl Magic and the Black Girl Magic and Black Girls Rock, I think that's what they're really aiming at. And when you see that, when you check that hashtag, you see so much diversity within that whole platform. So we're moving in the right direction.
But I think one of the things that we'll miss with this is that we don't start educating people to be better advocates for themselves. Yeah. So just because the Congressional Caucus has come out, I'm expecting and waiting them to do boom, 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 boom. What are you going to do? Right. And that goes beyond hashtag movement.
Exactly.
Are you going to talk to local officials? Are you going to get involved and support? And so I think that kind of the advocacy for the everyday individual has been lost. And I think that'd be another really important piece to come out of this, too, is teaching people how to advocate for themselves.
We all know fighting for equal opportunity for minority women shouldn't just be a woman's work. How can men be better allies to the cause?
I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that one. We have to be more supportive. I mean, there are a lot of times where guys say, hey, we need to help each other out, support each other as brothers and all this other stuff. But our women and our girls need us. Ms. Fair puts on a daddy-daughter dance, and it's not just for fathers. I don't have any kids, but I support it every year. I mean, that role has to come from men to say, hey, we can be ahead of our households, but we have to be ahead of our community as well. And with that, we have to support our women that are doing good stuff. We can't separate. Women can't just work with women, and guys just can't work with guys. We got to find some way to, get those relationships together, and they be about business. They be about getting things actually done in our communities. So,
because a lot of times men they feel intimidated, or they like to challenge women when it comes to working together, even in the same space with non-for-profits. And we're all in this together, not even just as a race, but just as a humanity. We're all in this together. So not to see us as a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and jump back in this again. So with that being said, yeah, that's true. That some men may be intimidated, but you have to also look at the women that are not open to deal with guys. Some women are out here and say, hey, I'm the woman, hear me roar, I can do this, I can do that, I don't need a man for this. So that creating that barrier already stops a guy to say, hey, I want to support, I want to come out, I want to do this. Whether a female thinks, hey, he's trying to get with me, he's trying to date me, or whatever the case may be, maybe that guy wants to support. Maybe he doesn't have any other agendas. So we have to still women, I love you all, but some women, they get to the point where they're, too into themselves, too into what they've already accomplished. I've met women that have been so strong-headed and hard-headed that you couldn't allow for good information to come in without you already having a closed door.
I think it's either absence of conversation that we're not having with each other between black men and black women, and then I think it's the way that we're talking to each other about it.
I'm glad you brought that up because Reggie actually mentioned that some black women are hard-headed.
Right.
What do you think about that comment?
I mean, I think there's black women that are hard-headed. I think there's white women that are hard-headed. I think there's Latino, I mean, so that kind of stuff I don't have time to give a whole bunch of energy to. Right.
That's okay.
And it's okay because I mean, it doesn't invalidate his experience. That's fine. But I think the important point is recognizing that there's a need and there's a void in having that kind of dialogue. And I think it's about how do we discuss it.
Just communication, stuff like this. It helps.
I think you have to schedule it. It has to become a part of your lifestyle. You schedule everything else. You go to work, you want to work out, you go to church, you do everything else. It has to be a time where you say, hey, I'm going to sit down, have a conversation with the people so I can recharge myself, get my thoughts out, and get some information back. There's nothing wrong with, she not giving any energy to my thoughts sometimes, because that's fine. That's where she's at. But there's a problem if we never have that
Well,
conversation.
and the conversation doesn't have to be a formal sit down.
It doesn't.
It could be, it's such a part of my lifestyle that I'm lovingly going to tell you in a conversation. You know, I'm charged as a storyteller. So my story is the story of the girls that I serve through Polished Pebbles. So if I'm having a conversation with a brother and he's talking about the young girl who's working at Popeyes at the cash register and she had a nasty attitude and I can't stand these little girls and these little girls so fast and they just that and the other, that's my opportunity to say lovingly, brother, but guess what? When I go into these schools every day, you have no idea what an 11 and a 12 and 13-year-old is dealing with on the flip side. And so that little attitude that you're getting, but that's my job as a woman and as a storyteller to lovingly tell him, did you compliment her though? Because when he compliments that girl on the register, man, her whole world, her whole being changes. So I have to make sure that I'm infusing love in how I communicate with him. I have to make sure that I'm reminding him to be loving to this little girl. No matter how hard the exterior looks like, she's still a vulnerable little girl.